The first hit came fast, too fast for him to react. Before he could recover, another blow cracked against his skull. He tried to speak, tried to tell them who he was, but they didn't care. They saw a black man. That was all that mattered. The badge in his pocket meant nothing. The uniform he had worn meant nothing, because to them he was just another black man in the wrong place at the wrong time. Michael Cox wasn't a suspect. He wasn't a criminal. He was an officer of the Boston Police Department, on duty, undercover. And yet, his own colleagues were beating him like they wanted to kill him. They left him there, bleeding, unconscious, discarded like trash on an icy street. And then, they covered it up. But here's where this story takes a turn, because nearly 3 decades later, Michael Cox became the commissioner of the very police department that tried to break him. This is a story about police brutality, corruption, and the ultimate payback, justice. Welcome to True Crime Stories videos. I welcome you, my viewers, and most especially my subscribers, for your support as we keep improving and bringing you daily told and untold true crime stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It's the kind of night where bad things happen. January 25th, 1995. Boston's Dorchester neighborhood. Cold air, flashing lights, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Police are chasing down gang members involved in a shooting, and things are getting messy. And in the middle of all this, Michael Cox, a highly trained, well-respected undercover officer with the Boston Police Department. Dressed in plain clothes, he's running, chasing down a suspect, his breath visible in the freezing air. He's doing his job, doing it well. But what happens next? It's the kind of nightmare that even cops don't wake up from. As he closes in on the suspect, a group of uniformed white officers spot the chase. They see a black man. They see him running, and that's all they need. They don't ask questions. They don't pause. They don't care that he's on their side. They move in fast, too fast. Before Cox can even open his mouth, a baton swings, a fist lands, his body slams against a fence, a knee drives into his back. He yells, "Stop! I'm a cop!" But it's drowned out by the chaos, by fists, by boots, by the sheer force of what's happening to him. One officer punches him so hard, his vision goes blurry. Another kicks him in the ribs, and then another, and another. Michael Cox is not resisting. He is not fighting back. He is trying to survive. And while all this is happening, the actual suspect, the guy they were supposed to be chasing, he's long gone. After what feels like an eternity, the beating stops. Cox is left crumpled on the icy pavement, bleeding, barely conscious, the cold seeping into his body. And here's where it gets even worse. No ambulance is called. No medical aid is given. The officers, his own colleagues, turn their backs and walk away, leaving him there like he's nothing, like he never mattered. At this point, Michael Cox wasn't just a beaten cop. He was a problem. And the Boston Police Department? They were about to make that problem disappear. Waking up in a hospital bed is never a good sign. Waking up in a hospital bed and realizing you don't remember how you got there. That's worse. But waking up in a hospital bed, barely able to move, and realizing your own brothers in blue nearly beat you to death, that's something else entirely. Michael Cox wakes up in agony. His head feels like it's been put through a meat grinder. His ribs scream with every breath. His kidneys? Let's just say they've seen better days. His body is covered in deep bruises, and the worst part, no one will tell him what happened. He's a cop. He knows how this works. If a police officer is attacked, if they're hurt in the line of duty, there's a report, a file, an investigation. There are people standing by his bed asking who did this and promising justice. But this time, nothing. No questions, no paperwork, no detectives showing up with their little notepads. It's like it never happened. And that's because, as far as the Boston Police Department is concerned, it didn't happen. The cover-up begins immediately. Step 1. Don't call an ambulance. Let's not document anything. Why make it official? Instead, officers just dump him at the hospital and drive away like he's yesterday's trash. Step 2. No reports. No paperwork. No one saw a thing. The incident doesn't exist. Cox isn't listed in any records as being at the scene that night. There's no mention of his injuries, no explanations. Step 3. The blue wall of silence locks into place. Tight. Officers who were right there when it happened. Suddenly, they have amnesia. They don't remember a thing. They didn't see anything. They don't know anything. Michael Cox is a cop. He knows how the system works. He just didn't know it could work against him. And here's the real kicker. He still has to go to work. Every day. Walking into the same department that tried to erase him. Sitting next to the same officers who beat him unconscious and then pretended he never existed. Think about that. You go to work, you clock in, and you know, without a doubt, that some of your co-workers are willing to kill you. And worse, the rest of them will cover it up. It's like being in a crime thriller, except there's no mystery. The bad guys are right there, wearing the same uniform you are. Michael Cox wasn't just a victim of police brutality. He was a victim of the system designed to protect police from accountability. And the Boston Police Department? They weren't done with him yet. There are 2 ways this kind of story usually goes. 1. The victim backs down, too scared or too broken to fight. Or 2. They go all in, swinging for justice like a boxer in the final round. Michael Cox? He chose option 2. He refused to stay silent, refused to let them get away with it. So, in 1998, 3 years after the night they tried to erase him, Cox filed a civil lawsuit. And suddenly, the Boston Police Department had a very big problem. Because now, this wasn't just about one officer getting beaten. This was about all of it, the racism, the cover-ups, the lies. Cox's case wasn't just his fight anymore. It was exposing something much bigger. Filing a lawsuit against your own department. That's not just bold, that's practically a death wish. But Cox wasn't backing down. Step 1. Expose the truth. Sounds easy, right? Just bring in the officers who were right there and make them talk. Except, they didn't. Not one of them. The moment the lawsuit hit, the blue wall of silence got even thicker. Officers who were standing 5 feet away during the attack? Suddenly, they had the worst case of memory loss Boston had ever seen. Step 2. Get the department to take responsibility. Another solid idea. Except the Boston PD had a different approach. Deny, deflect, and dodge like their careers depended on it. Step 3. Break the wall. Find someone willing to talk. But let's just say, getting a Boston cop to testify against his own was like trying to get a cat to take a bath. Not happening. And here's where it gets really interesting. Despite all the dodging, despite the stonewalling, the silence, and the straight-up lies, Cox wins. In 1998, after 3 long years, the city of Boston agrees to settle. Cox is awarded $1.25 million, a big number, sure. But here's the twist. Not a single officer faces criminal charges. Let that sink in. They beat him unconscious, they covered it up, and they walked away scot-free. Now don't get me wrong, the lawsuit wasn't for nothing. It forced Boston to take a long, hard look at itself. It led to some police reforms, some uncomfortable conversations. But for Cox, it wasn't just about the money, it was about justice. And let's be real, this didn't feel like justice. They silenced him. They beat him. They got away with it. But what they didn't know was that Michael Cox wasn't done yet. If revenge is a dish best served cold, then Michael Cox had been letting this one marinate for over 2 decades. They beat him, left him for dead, pretended he didn't exist. And for most people, that's the moment you pack up, leave, and never look back. But Cox, he did something no one expected. He stayed. Not only did he stay, but he thrived, climbed the ranks, made a name for himself. The same department that tried to break him, he worked his way through it, step by step. They wanted him erased. Instead, he became impossible to ignore. Cox didn't just survive the Boston Police Department. He made sure he was a name they'd never forget. First, he became a high-ranking commander, overseeing internal affairs, investigating misconduct. Irony? Not lost on him. Then, in 2019, he took a break from Boston, heading to Ann Arbor, Michigan, as chief of police. A fresh start, a new chapter. But the past, it has a funny way of calling you back. And then, it happened. The moment nobody saw coming. The man they left bleeding in the street was now in charge of the entire department. Let's put this in perspective. Michael Cox walked back into the exact same building where his name had once been erased. Only this time, everyone in that department answered to him. Picture this: the same officers who once closed ranks to protect each other, the same ones who refused to testify, who let his attackers walk free. They were now calling him Commissioner Cox. That's not just a comeback. That's the ultimate power move. Karma doesn't always take a straight path. Sometimes it comes in the form of a promotion. And Michael Cox? He didn't just win, he rewrote the ending. Surviving an attack from violent criminals is one thing. Surviving an attack from your own brothers in blue, now that takes something else entirely. Michael Cox didn't just live to tell the tale, he lived to rewrite it. But let's be real, this isn't just his story. Because for every Michael Cox who speaks out, how many others never get that chance? This was never just about one man. It was about a system, one that nearly erased him, one that has erased so many others. Cox's case forced Boston PD to acknowledge what happened. But let's not kid ourselves. Real change doesn't happen because people suddenly grow a conscience. It happens because someone refuses to stay silent. His case exposed the reality of police brutality against black officers, because if they could do this to one of their own, imagine what they were doing to civilians. It highlighted the power of systemic cover-ups, where truth gets buried and silence is rewarded. And it proved just how unbreakable the blue wall of silence really is. Michael Cox was lucky. He lived. He got justice. He even became the boss. But what about the ones who didn't? Now, let's ask the hard questions. What would have happened if Michael Cox had died that night? Would anyone have ever told the truth? And how many cases like this have been buried under the blue wall of silence? We'll never know. Today, Commissioner Michael Cox stands as proof that resilience can beat the odds. But his story isn't just one of triumph. It's a warning. Because if this could happen to him, a decorated officer, what hope does the average person have? Michael Cox survived the unthinkable. But the real question is, how many others didn't? Michael Cox's story is a rare one. Not because he survived, not because he fought back, but because, for once, the system didn't completely win. But let's be real. How often does that actually happen? This case is chilling, but it's not unique. The blue wall of silence, still standing. Corruption, still thriving. And let's not pretend racial injustice went out of style in the 90s. So now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Cox's rise to Commissioner true justice, or just a lucky break? And if you found this story eye-opening, shocking, or just plain infuriating, do the smart thing. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, because trust me, we're just getting started. Stay safe out there and question everything.